Hi again, it's me in Angels Camp, Susan Barrich. I just wanted to go over a couple of things before I have to take the dog to the vet. But I've been off the air for a few days. I wanted to get back and just highlight a couple of things that have happened recently. Um, there is, this is from Chris Cuomo, we get, there is no plan. There's no plan from Donald Trump or nor the administration around around tariffs, around the economy. Now, there's probably a plan to deport um, immigrants, and whether they're legal or not. I mean, they're deporting people of color, and that's probably part of 2025. But in terms of our economy, um, we have in this country, there are currently 500,000 manufacturing jobs unfulfilled in this country. So it's not like we don't have manufacturing. We are the second largest producer of stuff in the world after China, and it's still only 15% of our output. That's according to Chris Cuomo. I like to cite my source. I trust Chris on these things because he's so smart. I don't always agree with him on his emotional approach to stuff, because I think he gives Donald Trump a little too much credit for being a human being. And I think Donald Trump is a totally broken soul. I'm sorry for him, but that's not my problem. My problem is, what am I going to do for food and housing and shelter, water, doctor's appointments, for the rest of my life if he continues doing what he's doing. The other good news I heard today from Joe on Substack was that it only takes 3.5%. I knew this, 3.5% of the population doing peaceful protests. They have to be peaceful protests out on the street. 3% of the population out on the street to get rid of the dictator. And that is just a historical precedent. And evidently there was a BBC article where they cited all the history of these things down through the ages. So 3%. Right now, that's 12 million people. Right now we have, I think, 3.5 million people or 3 million people out on the streets. And Joe was saying, so the next time you do something, take one person. That gets us to 6 million people. Now we're halfway there. And if everybody, the next time we do a demonstration, asks someone new to come who hasn't been on the streets before, but maybe interested, and I don't know, but maybe a family member. For me, it's my son. You know, he's just afraid he'll lose it out there, but he doesn't like to see people flipping his mother off. But it's just so that's the one for me. So if it's 3.5% of the population is 12 million people. Right now we have 3 million people out. If everybody gets one more person, that's 6 million. And if everybody the next time gets one more person, that doubles it, 6 million to 12 million. And then we get the dictator out, the administration out. I don't know exactly how that happens. Maybe the Congress decides that they would rather take their chances with the vote than with Donald Trump, but that's how it works. So that's good news, because we're a quarter of the way there. We're a quarter of the way getting him out. The other thing I noticed, I saw this week or last week, was the Flagrant podcast, Flagrant podcast. With interviewing Steve Schultz is a comedian. I had never heard of him, but Akash Singh, Alexa Media, and Mark Gannon is this multicultural group of young men who do the podcast. And they had Pete Buttigieg on, and Pete shone as usual. He's just such a shining light. They gave him a hard time about being gay, and they all laughed about it. They said, "Oh, you didn't come out until you got home from Afghanistan, or I don't know, Iraq, wherever he was. I thought it was Afghanistan. But you did what they put in the water over there that made you gay, And so he's laughing, and they're having a good time. So that was all really cool. But he's such a good communicator, and he did say, there are Here's an example. And maybe it was Akash Singh who asked this question. So are there really 150-year-olds? You know, there's 150-year-olds people who are already dead and they're writing checks to him from Social Security. And Pete said, okay, so here's what the president did. He said there are 150-year-old people on the list getting Social Security. What he didn't tell you, what Trump did not tell you, but Pete tells us, is that the way they manage those lists is he'll say, okay, so someone dies of old age and it takes, I don't know, a month, maybe 6 weeks to get them actually zeroed out of Social Security. And this happened with my husband when he passed away 6 years ago. And I didn't get any extra Social Security checks, by the way. I didn't get extra cash after he was dead. And so Pete says, and so that person's no longer getting Social Security, but they are not necessarily purged from the list. They don't manage the list that way. And with all the people getting fired from Social Security, they probably won't ever purge the list again, I imagine, until we get rid of this dictator. So anyway, that was really interesting. So it's a talking point that we have. And there's not really 150-year-olds getting Social Security. They just haven't purged that list. And if you've worked at all with databases or lists, as so many of us have in our careers, you know that it's a pain in the butt to have to go through and purge a list of everybody who didn't respond or people who said, please take me off your list. So when they don't have anybody asking them to take them off the list, they're just people who are dropped from getting checks, then they're still on the list. It's just how it works in databases. And if you work with databases, you know that. So that was really a good, I will say that on the Flagrant podcast, there's a lot of F-bombs. So if you don't like F-bombs, just plug your ears or you'll go blah, 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 whatever you have to do. The word doesn't bother me. In 1968, when I went to college at Chico State, I became the chick singer in the rock and roll band with the long blonde straight hair, and I was tall and skinny just like Twiggy, and I could sing really, really well. And so I was in the band, and the boys were dropping F-bombs all the time, and I was like in Grease, the character, the girl character who's such a goody two-shoes, right? And she finally comes out at the end and all slicked out. I was she. That was me. I was that straight girl out of Catholic school, Menlo Park, and it was I just had to get used to the F word, and it finally became one of my favorite words because I wanted to take its power away from it. So use it. Take that horrible power away from that word. Why should everybody be offended by a word? And if you use it enough, it becomes kind of fun. It doesn't necessarily mean anything nasty or sexual. It's just a word that makes an impression. So there will be F-bombs on that. Let's see. Oh, the other cool thing that happened in the last couple of weeks is California became the 4th largest economy in the world. It replaced Japan as the 4th largest economy. Yay, California, my home. I love this state. It's so beautiful. And I've been around. I've been to a few other states, not a lot. But I love California. It's just so dynamic and so beautiful. And we have, there's something that let me see if I can pull this up that I wrote. Anyway, there's the point that California has, I got to get rid of some things here so I can see. California it's a donor state, which means that we Californians pay much more in federal taxes than we receive in services from the federal government. So California donated more than $83 billion more to the federal government in 2023. This is where the statistic comes from, 2023. California donated $83 billion more to the federal government than it got back in services from the federal government. Texas received $73 billion more than it donated. So in taxes to the federal government. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, oh, they want to call people welfare, whatever. Well, it looks like Texas is a welfare state. California is a supporter, donator state. So, trash California all you want. Stay away. I don't care. I love this place. We could be scuba diving in the morning and skiing in the afternoon, or vice versa. But you don't want to get the bends, so you have to be careful how you do that. But it can be done. What else is on the... Oh, my mind goes to the rebuilding of the country more than what's going on now, because I have to have faith that we are America. We're not Russia. We're not China. Nobody's going to take our democracy away from us without a fight. And we are going to fight. So what does it look like when we rebuild it? We can't go back to 2024, 2023, 2022, because that's what created Donald Trump. There were just too many people who weren't getting what they needed from the way we're all organized. And so we need to start thinking in like, do we need a new constitution? I mean, he shredded this one. In fact, my MAGA neighbor has the American flag over the Trump flag, and the American flag is absolutely shredded because he leaves it out in the rain and the wind and the storms and the hurricane. He leaves it out. My grandfather is probably rolling over in his grave. He taught us to treat the flag so reverently, and how to fold it up, and how to never leave it out at night, and never leave it out in the rain. And boy, I think it's such a metaphor that MAGA is shredding the country and shredding the government and shredding the American flag. It drives me nuts. The disrespect of America. So, do we need a new constitution? Probably. One that codifies what have been the norms. So it has been normal for people to be honest, for people to show their tax returns. That's been normalized since the 70s, I think. Was it Jimmy Carter? And so what used to be normal has just been blown through by Trump and his buddies. So we need to codify some stuff. Like there will be no interaction between the White House and the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is our Department of Justice. Those are my attorneys. Those are not Donald Trump's attorneys. Those are my attorneys. They make sure that the law is working for the people. We are a country by the people, for the people. And the Department of Justice does not belong to Donald Trump. It belongs to me. It belongs to you. Here's something that, the thing I was looking for that I wrote about California. I love California. Congratulations, California. California also pays more than $83 billion in taxes, more than it gets back in federal services, whilst Texas takes in more than $70 billion in federal assistance than it pays in taxes. Texas, a welfare queen? Who'd have thought? So go ahead and trash our gorgeous California and other blue states with our beautiful immigrants growing and picking our sweet strawberries and lettuces, and our lovely gay community contributing to that economic growth. But we are generating your government assistance, red states and cities. We aren't perfect, but we are good. We are good people, loving and supporting one another. Can you say the same, Texas? I have people I love in Texas who I know are supporting and loving one another. I guess I'm talking to the government in Texas and their Abbott and the Attorney General, who's also not a great guy. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.